You said it again. Hi, Joseph Carabas here. We're listening to Stevie Wonder, who I've known since I was very young. Not personally, of course. Yeah, Stevie and me were like this. um, but really first learned to appreciate in great detail my first time through college. Been through college a number of times. Still going, for that matter. I wanted to talk about, as always, I want to talk about stuff which is important and relevant to me because it's happening to me now. And in this case, reading like an editor, eating my own dog food, critiquing your own work, the first word, all sorts of stuff coming together. Let me see if I can actually give you some background on what I'm about to share. He said, clicking away. Okay, I'm going to be reading elements from a piece which I originally composed. Well, according to this, my first draft of this was in 2013, but I actually doubt that. I'm pretty sure that the first draft of this story was somewhere in the 1990s. I was reading an article for Science from Nature, I'm sorry. And I was actually engaged by the article, and boom, the story came to me. There it was, everything, getting to the last scene. So I made notes, eventually sat down, wrote it. It sucked. Went back, wrote it again, sucked, wrote it. No. Went through, at this point, 20 revisions. I think I have it now. The reason I went through 20 revisions was because the story that I wanted to tell was not the best way to tell the story. And it wasn't until now that I really began to recognize the weaknesses in the story. Let me give you an example. I'm going to read to you. Isn't that exciting? Going to read to you. This is the last moderately good version. And it begins with a journal entry. This is all basically found material. It begins with a journal entry on 9 May 2035. Why did Cortazon never remove his hat? Perhaps to save his balding head from the tropical sun. He had pale skin, but not unduly so. I've seen paler men brave the day. How come he never shaved, never had to? I that alopecia and said no more. We can be fools when we trust another. That's a really good opening when you know where the story's going and where it had been. And that was the problem. I was starting the story in the wrong place because as found material, I wanted the reader to discover it as the characters were finding the material. They're going back, they're searching through other people's journal entries, they're finding stuff. So not only are you reading something that's found, you are now reading something that was found by the people who found it. You may remember from the rule of three, you can only go so many levels deep before people go nuts. This was making people nuts because at some points, places in this story, I was 5 and 6 levels deep. I understood what was going on. And even though everyone I had shown it to were like, wow, this is an amazing story, beautifully, they also said, I had a lot of trouble figuring out what was going on. We now go into timelines, plot lines, and through lines, also playing a part in here. What I finally ended up doing was, well, before I get to that, it's a reasonable place to start the story if you know what's going on, but how much tension and why did Cortazon never remove his hat? You don't know much of anything else that's going on. From the very beginning stuff, you know, material collected regarding 7 June 2035 Mark Varro incident. From Louise Rose Gutierrez's journal, independent reporter on Grupo Global assignment, 9 May 2035, 0957 hours. And then when you read, why did cortisone never remove? It could be interesting further in, but it's not interesting there. And that's another thing that I will share with you. You have to determine, is what you've written interesting where you've written it. It may be really great somewhere else in the story, but if it's not useful, not interesting, where you put it in the story, edit it, get it out, remove it, put it someplace else where it will be interesting. So the story was not opening at the beginning. The timeline was off. Because the timeline was off, the through line was botched. The plot line kept on shifting through all these different found material. So I began to look at it. It took me a while, too, to look at it as an editor. I began critiquing my own work. And like everyone else, he said humbly, had to agree. The writing was really beautiful, very poetic writing. But I didn't understand what was going on. The power of the writing kept me going, but not what was written. There's a difference. I can really enjoy, for example, reading a piece of poetry. I can really enjoy the beauty, the elegance of the language, the symmetry of the language, the eloquence of it, but not understand the poem. Situation here. So I decided to linearize the story, still found material, but now it is found linearly from the beginning to the end. The story actually begins on 3rd of May, 2035. And we begin now, 34th, 3 May 2034, a year before the actual main element, if you will, the crisis, not the crisis point, the critical point, the crisis action point, the cataclysm, literally in this case, occurs. So remember, we had 9 May 2035. Why did cortisone never remove his hat? Now we are in 3 May 2034, 0850 hours. Now we are from Adriano Little Bosco Ciani's video, Heir to the Ciani Fortune and Vale Empire. Okay, for most people, just the fact that we're starting off with somebody who's an heir to a fortune and Vale Empire is a lot more exciting than an independent reporter on Grupo Global assignment, because this guy could be an independent reporter. Who knows what the hell he's reporting on? Evidently, he's reporting on the fact that cortisone never removed his hat. Biggie. So at 3 May 2034, 0850 hours. And now we are a video capture. Adriano Ciani and Bela Vernett's assistant walk from the dock into the trees as the light deep-sea trawler Quiroga departs the small bay with her 6-man crew. Bela, shorter than Ciani, barefoot, his overalls revealing a pronounced, almost obscene muscularity, with skin darkened from the sun and roughened from work, carries Adriano's suitcases, one in each hand. Adriano carries a backpack and a laptop bag. That very much more sets the scene. That sets the story. We don't know much else, but we know we're now on a dock, trees, deep sea trawler going out. There's this guy, Bela, who's evidently overwhelmingly muscled, very dark skin. A meter-tall bird, its head feathers auburn red like an Irishman's hair, its body and wings bright blue with a yellow edge on all the flight feathers, a black beak and eyes complete with iris the same color as its wings, stares down from a poor excuse for a nest halfway up a malunga tree. It opens its mouth to reveal a human tongue and screams with an almost human voice. What is the strange bird? I've never seen its like. And that call, like a child in pain. You could almost make out words. Bela pays no attention. It's indigenous to the island. Perhaps that's why. Rare. The island's been known since the conquistadors. No one mentions it in all this time. As I said, rare. Does it have a name? He hesitates, then smiles and finally laughs. Avihilio Vernetsis. He throws his head back, laughing. It's named after Professor Burnett? Bela's laughter subsides. Yes. Where is Professor Burnett? When will I see him? End. It's a longer opening. It sets more of the story. It actually demonstrates some conflict. There's confusion, but it's now in the characters, not in the reader. There's this bizarre bird, which no one knows about, no one here on the island, no one outside the island, I should say. And it's been there for a long time, since the conquistadors. What are you telling me? So there's a lot of foreshadowing here that's not in the other one. It is now the beginning, the actual beginning of the timeline of the story. So that makes better sense. And again, I want to emphasize, it wasn't until I read as an editor, until I forgot that I had written this story, until I forgot that I knew how the story ends, where the story goes, until I forgot what the story was about, and read it as if this is the first time I've seen this. Here it is in front of me. I'm the editor of a magazine. What am I going to do? That effort to do that, I admit, takes a bit of doing for me. It is invaluable because it allows me to do what so many other people actually pay me to do for them, which is edit their work. It allows me to edit my own work without the prejudice of this must be good because I wrote it. How many of, I know nobody else has that but me, right? You all believe your work sucks. Okay. So I don't have that built-in prejudice. I don't have that inane belief that simply because I wrote it. Wow. Now, whether it's better or not, that's for other people to decide. So far, the people who have seen it in this version, especially one person who never seen the previous versions, he was blown away by it. Yeah, we got to get this published. Yeah, let's do that. So there you go. Rule of three, opening lines, great openings, timeline, through line, plot line, reading like an editor. That's the big one. Eating my own dog food. Be willing to critique my own work as thoroughly as critique someone else's. Read your own work as if you're reading someone else's. And I don't mean these writers' workshops where, oh yes, this is a wonderful story, and I was very impressed by it. I love the way you used those. No, that's bullshit. You have to get into a critique group where they're willing to rip your work apart. Not you. This is not personal. The work, not the individual. And I also admit that's rare to find. If you're interested, let me know. Let's get one going. So hopefully that's been useful for you. If not, let me know. We'll go over it again. Take care, all. Yes, I'm going to look for the button. I'm going to move something out of my screen. Oh, there it is. Bye-bye.